Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Coffee Break. We're so excited to have you. As you know, the Coffee Break is tailored to highlight event professionals and what they're doing in our industry, how great they're doing, and just to kind of connect our audience with other event professionals worldwide. So today we have one of my absolute favorites. I love this event professional. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, and the floor is all yours, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here on this live to chat. My name is Jeffrey Williamson. I am a professional photographer based in Raleigh, North Carolina. I used to be in the habit of saying, a wedding photographer or a senior portrait photographer, but I realized that boxed me in a little bit. So I just love saying I'm a photographer because if it's product photography, if it's wedding, if it's concerts, like I'm interested in shooting it, if it's a right fit. So I'm extremely happy to be here today. So
thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually honored that he joined us, you guys. Jeffrey has a very extensive background. He does a lot of work with our community, our culture, outside of our culture, and his work is like one of a kind. It's truly unique. It's truly different. And so that is why I wanted to bring you on for sure. So tell our audience, or tell me a little bit about your story, how you got started, and why you knew that this industry was for you.
Sure. So I've always, had an interest in all things creative, like within the arts. So I started art classes when I was in kindergarten, actually, and I went to a public school for the majority of my life. And I remember taking art courses in kindergarten and first grade, and then after that, my school completely got rid of it. Like they didn't have anything creative. They had like Spanish, and like this is the early '90s, so like keyboarding, trying to get kids to like learn how to use computers and stuff. And we had a few music classes, which was another interest of mine, because I do sing as well. But I didn't have any art classes until my 7th grade year in middle school. So it had been a huge jump, and I remember just getting immersed in it. And I had a teacher, her name is Miss Humphrey. I still keep in contact with her today, and like she kind of relit that flame in me to start back again painting. So some aspects of design. So from that 7th grade year, I literally had an art course every single year up until graduating. And then I transferred high schools from a public school to a private school. The public school that I was at was predominantly, well, I wouldn't say it's predominantly Black, but there was a very high Black population, high Hispanic population. But then when I transferred schools from public to private, it was like completely different. I was like one of 4 Black students, and I was the oldest. So like when I was there, I was the oldest junior, the oldest, senior. But being exposed to that and exposed to different cultures and studying art, like outside of just like drawing on my own, studying early on Renaissance art in Italy, and just looking at that and looking at like the juxtaposition of how people are posed in contrast to like the settings. That struck a really big interest in me. And I also remember joining yearbook club my junior and senior year. So that's when I started to learn a little bit about design, graphic design, and layout. And the funny thing was I joined photography club my senior year, and I didn't even have a camera. Like I was just interested. And like now that I think about it, I think it was just like a club to say we're part of something to put on a college application. But I didn't even have a camera. Like other students had cameras, and they would let me shoot with theirs, but I didn't, own one like a DSLR myself. And then by the time I got to college, I went to Elon University for undergrad and grad school. And when I got there and I was exposed to, the different majors and the different the professors that, that would speak life. And to me, I'm so grateful to have, some specific professors that I could shout out. I did have one professor that I have to shout out. Her name is L.M. Wood, and she actually passed away last year. And she was the one that really fanned the flames of everything that I do as far as, digital work and photography. So I started taking it serious around my senior year in college, which was around 2012. And I remember purchasing my first used camera for like $250. And back then I thought that was a lot for like a college student. I was just like, my gosh, what am I like? This is my check, because like back in college,
$50, like
yeah, it's like when we were in college, we had those on-campus jobs, work study, like we would get paid once a month, and the check would be like $300. And I was a RA, so I did have my room and board paid for, but the check would come like $300. I'm like, okay, this is for the month, and I wasn't spending anything, but like when I got the camera, that first Nikon D3100, don't even make that camera anymore. I was just like, okay, if I'm spending this money, I need to make it about it. So I started photographing like my peers for like seniors doing their senior portraits. And like, oh my God, back in the day, I thought my stuff was so hot. Like, oh, I'm gonna put this little filter on it. I'm gonna make their skin glow. Like, it's gonna be like a hazy filter. This is dope. It's around the time Instagram was really big. Like, started like literally Instagram had just appeared, and they've since changed their filters, but they had all those weird like Vaseline filters and everything. So I really sorry, this thing is ringing.
It's okay.
Yeah. So like I really thought I was like doing something then, like by that point. But then I kept practicing, and then the next year I enrolled in grad school where I got my master's in interactive media, and that's why I really dove deep into photography. And we had a lot of projects. We studied abroad. I think we went to Costa Rica that year, and I was the lead photographer. And I had to take photos of the project. We had to build a website, and I was part of the team for everything you saw on the website. I was to take pictures of. So that's when it got really serious. And that following semester, I had an apprenticeship with a really great mentor of mine. His name is Chris Charles, and he's still taking pictures. His name is Chris Charles, and he owns Chris Charles Photography. Back then, it was Creative Silence. And I just remember looking at his aesthetic, like, wow, what is he shooting with? What camera does he have? And that was such a what's the word I'm looking for? A beginner's question to ask, because I have a lot of people that want to get in photography now, like, oh, what camera do you have? I want a camera just like that. And the thing is, I've seen people buy the top-notch cameras, like from the highest of places, and their work still like sucks.
Don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, until you master, what you can get. And so that was like $250 for that first camera, but like I had to learn the ins and out of it. I had to learn, the basics of white balance and composition and the rule of thirds.
Do you still have that camera?
I do have the camera. It doesn't work anymore. And let me tell you, so to get into the story, so that was my first camera. Then I started to take a little bit more serious. I upgraded to the Nikon D5600, which is still a crop sensor camera. But I shot my first wedding with that camera. And to that day, that wedding is still one of the weddings that helps me get bookings, because I literally it's like a very bright and airy. And it's actually, when you go to my website, which I gave you a link to, when you go to my website, that first image, the hero shot, is the image that I shot with that camera. So, and then from then on, I said again.
And not to cut you off, but I think that you make a really, really good point when you say, if you have something so fancy or expensive, or even with people in our industry, if you own a venue, but you don't know how to sell and market it, or you don't know how to master what you're doing there in that venue and finding the purpose, it'll be a waste. And so if I could pull anything out of what you said, that is something that like stood out to me the most. Like, hey,
absolutely.
So that kind of brings me to my next question. As you gradually got into your career and climbed this ladder, what did you consider like your favorite style of photography, or what is currently your favorite style of photography at this moment?
Sure. So currently my favorite style of photography is like, I love dramatic and like moody. And how I've been able to establish my style, because I can perfect various styles depending on what the client wants. But I had to, sort of like that term, you have to learn the rules before you can break them. So like I have a variety of clientele. So I have a lot of clients that are Hispanic. I have clients that are African American. I have clients that are white. What I've noticed is that a lot of my Caucasian clients and followers, they love the bright and airy, shots, like the beautiful gowns and stuff like that. But then like the African Americans, we want to be like a little extra. So, we have like the drama, we have the one light, the stuff that can be in like Essence magazine, or like the fellas want to like look like they come out of a GQ article and stuff like that. So I've been able to, one, learn my audience and learn my clientele, and two, be able to market and cater to them specifically. And it's like, we're definitely not biased here at Jeffrey Lynn Media at all. We shoot all couples, all races. But I think one part of being within this industry, even though you may cater to everyone, is to still know who it is that you're catering to. You don't have to be biased towards it, but know like, okay, this package historically has a higher percentage rate of attracting like this client based upon it here. And I develop personas for my own business for me to learn like, okay, what is it that after collecting information, what does this person, or what does this person typically like? What do they like to shoot at? So that's very important, I'd say.
And speaking of knowing your audience, so I meet a lot of photographers here in Atlanta. You know, I'm based here in Atlanta. So I meet a lot of photographers here in Atlanta that say to me, hey, I'm not really into doing both. They don't want to do still shots, or I'm going to say still shots because I'm not.
I know, that's right. You're correct. Yeah.
But they're used to doing like still shots or portraits or something that's more like lifestyle versus actual moving parts and events. And a lot of people say they don't like to do the event portion because it's you have to be everywhere all the time, like right on your cue. Right. What would you say to someone who feels like, hey, I'm not capable of doing that event portion, who may want to do that event portion, but just feels like I'm not there yet?
Right. The first thing that I would say is look for opportunities to like shadow or to like follow. And maybe not the most busy event, because you still want to be with an event planner or whoever. Like I have photographers that want to shadow me. And if I know it's going to be a wedding with like 300 people and I start at 8 a.m. and don't end till 10 p.m., I'll have second shooters come, but I know there's going to be like a hella busy day. Yeah. So I may bring them to like an elopement or, a wedding that's like 50 people, so that it's easy crowd control. Like I can take a photo of the bride and the groom together, and then with the family, then I can have that person shadowing me. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm, talking to the couple, or how I'm like trying to wrangle everybody together. Because being at weddings, it can get a little rowdy. Yeah. And there's a lot of people, especially if there's a large, wedding party, trying to wrangle everybody together. Some may or may not be intoxicated, trying to like do all that. I want to make sure that the people that shadow me get a valuable experience. Because I've had tons of internships when I've been under people, and it was a complete waste. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a complete waste, but I definitely learned what not to do. So I would say if you're trying to get into it, whether it's photography or like actual event planning, like you definitely have to be on your P's and Q's and find a way to stay organized. I definitely have to give you credit, because you put me onto Honeybook, and I have been using that faithfully. I've been using it faithfully to get my inquiries in, to accept my payments. And sometimes, like, I've noticed a lot of people when they get into this industry, whether it's event planning, photography, DJing, like the main thing that people struggle with are systems. And systems can like make or break you. And I almost wanted to give up because I'm like, oh my God. And it was a blessing because I was getting a lot of inquiries in, but it became too much at one point. I'm like, I'm just about to stop because I can't do this. I can't answer every email. I don't.
And that is why I find it. So I advocate so much on the Planner's Corner for people to really understand, like, even during COVID right now, a lot of people looked at this time like, oh my God, I'm out of work. I'm this, I'm that. And I'm not going to pretend like I didn't, right? At first, sis was over here stressed out. Absolutely. But what I will say is that I feel like this was a really good moment to kind of look at what your processes are. And what you're doing in terms of managing everything. It's a very good slow time to slow down and check in on your behind the scenes business stuff. Having a process can get you more money. You know what I mean? Think about it, how much time we spend trying to respond to everybody or get everyone. Where Honeybook is now doing that for us. So it allows us to kind of be out and do something else and show up differently to our events. So neither here nor there. We don't have to keep the truth. But I did want to bring that part out because it's super important for people to understand, like, it's not just the planners that need to be organized, it's also the vendors and whomever else, right? Any business person. Absolutely.
And being open to work cohesively with the other vendors while there too.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into that too. So, but before we get into that, I want you to tell us more about like one of your most valued experiences that you've ever had in your career, like something that was like, I want to brag about this. It was so beautiful. It taught me something. What is one of those moments that you had in your career?
Sure. Let me see. I think, well, being located here in Raleigh, we have a huge event that takes place and Radio One puts on every year. It's called Women's Empowerment. And they bring, magnificent speakers. They have like Angela Bassett, they have Tyler Perry, TD Jakes, Viola Davis, Michael Strahan, Patti LaBelle. So this would have been the 5th year, but COVID kind of messed it up. This year was supposed to be Angela Bassett and the Clark sisters, but last year, I can go off that one, Patti LaBelle was the speaker and performer. So about 5 years ago, I had put in the atmosphere that I was like, I really want to shoot concerts and, live events.
Yeah.
Try to network with them. And a friend of mine who works at a radio station, and I literally met her at a concert in Charlotte. And I was like, we're in the same meet and greet line. I remember it was a TLC concert. I'm a big 90s R&B fan. And we were standing in line, and she worked at that radio station. And she was like, well, yeah, I live in Raleigh. I was like, well, I live in Raleigh. And we literally lived like 3 minutes away from each other. So from that point on, we connected. And she was like, hey, would you be able to do some behind the scenes photography and videography for me while I'm on the stage? So I got an all access backstage pass to be with her. And I remember that first year I did it. I met Tamala Mann, I met Monica, I met who else was there that first year? Tamala Mann, Monica, Vivica A. Fox, Keisha Knight Pulliam. It was, and they bring about 15 to 20 celebrities every year, like some that has been in the industry for a long time, and some that are just starting. Like Country Wayne, the Instagram comedian, I was able to meet him. I didn't even know really who he was. I was like, okay, and then he started to blow up. But ever since then, 5 years ago, I've gotten calls to come back every year to photograph that event, and I've met some of my, I don't have idols, but some of the people that I really look up to, the Patti LaBelle and like I said, Monica, and it's just Kurt Franklin. God, it's so many people. Tom Joyner, like so many people that I've met, and not only was I able to use those photos to diversify my portfolio, but I remember the first year, and this is a really big thing too, and this is probably a whole nother conversation, mental illness in the creative field. But I remember I was like, after that event, I was so depressed. Like that first year, I was so depressed, and I could not figure out why. And I think that I was just overwhelmed that I was like sharing the same air with these people. Yeah. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. And the whole day I was like pinching myself, like, and it was a long day. I got there like at 8 o'clock that morning, didn't get out until like 10 o'clock that night, just like packing up and setting up. And then I just had to really convince myself that like, Jeffrey, you belong here. Your work will speak for itself. Like your name will be in rooms that you haven't even entered yet. And, I've kept getting callbacks every year, the work that I've been able to create because of those events. And this is one thing too. I don't know if this will change, but the last 5 years I've done it for free. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing, because that has given me clientele that I didn't even, know. People were following my work, looking at my hashtags that I didn't even know. So I
literally tell people all the time, like, you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. And in the beginning of my career, I had a depressing stage as well. I think most people do, honestly.
You're trying to figure things out, yeah.
Yeah, and you're trying to figure out, like, if you really can do this and if you are really worth what you're charging. And, it's the whole thing in a nutshell. But what I will say is that it's super important to identify, like, what you are going to do for free and what boundaries you're going to create around giving away your services, and if it's really a partnership or something that can connect you with someone else.
Absolutely.
When you do walk into a room, better believe that someone is talking about you when you leave out of there. Like,
absolutely.
In a text, sharing your social media posts. There's so many avenues now to network where you don't even formally have to be in a room.
Absolutely.
You really never know. Sometimes I get people, you know, on my Planners Corner webinars, and they're in like London and so many other places. And I'm like, I don't even know how you know about me.
Right.
Our biggest following is in the DMV area, and we've only been there for a workshop once. So I commend you let me get my words together. I commend you for continuing to fulfill your passion and to keep going. Because I think that you've made a name for yourself that speaks volumes in a room without you even having to show up.
That means a lot. Thank you. Because I literally, you know, still struggle day to day thinking like, okay, how can I market my work? Or, you know, what channel do I need to be on? I remember when I first got started shooting weddings, like I went through that marketing phase, like with the knot and with like all the wedding wire, which, you know, tend to be a ton of scams. And I will gladly say that to this day, because you're paying so much per month and they're expecting you to at least book one wedding that will pay for that year. So it's just like I stopped using that, and I found people that, you know, wanted to work with me organically. Like they would, a specific hashtag that I would use, definitely word of mouth. Once I photograph someone else, and then also what I've done is sometimes I offer free engagement sessions to for example, like I follow like a lot of social media influencers or lifestyle bloggers, and I see that they get engaged, those that are here and that are local, and sometimes they'll have about, you know, 10 to 15,000 followers or 20,000 followers. If they're local, I'll send them a quick DM with my work. I'm like, hey, would you be interested in a free engagement session? Because for one, that not only builds up your customer service reputation, but also you're doing free work, but they're more likely to promote you on their social medias, because, you know, they'll say, well, this is
they're going to promote it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone wants to see themselves. So like maybe 1 to 3 times a year, I may do something like that I may do a free engagement session, or, you know, a free headshot session, because I know I'm able to look past the payment option of it and realize like this is doing work for free can also be an investment in yourself. And you hear the word investment, you think spending money, but like investing in yourself can also be doing free stuff to get free promos. So.
Absolutely. So speaking of mental health and having some challenges in the beginning, what would you say is like one of your biggest challenges in your career, like to date? Like this is something that I've struggled with. Maybe you've gotten better, but it's a constant struggle there.
I don't have it as much as I used to, but just struggling, thinking that I'm like not good enough, you know, within this and in life in general, but also specifically within photography, because, you know, I see a lot of photographers that, you know, have the thousands of followers, and they do 40 weddings a year, and they have a team, and they have their own storefront studio, and all of those things are dreams of mine. But I also have to realize I can't compare my chapter 15 to someone else's chapter 75. You know, they're all building blocks of foundation of, you know, getting me where I wanted to be. Like I went through my portfolio the other day, and I was just like looking at the work that I've done 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm like, wow, I've really progressed. And like when I was just talking about doing senior portraits in college, like I thought that work was amazing, but I'm glad that I kept that hunger up, thinking that my work was good, because along that way, I discovered small tidbits that helped me snowball into, like, for one, my passion, but also new tips of how to shoot, how to pose couples, you know, how to light a situation, whether if it's natural light or using off-camera flash, and meeting the people at the right place at the right time. That's all everything has been for me. It's just like just being there, showing up, and, you know, allowing my preparation and education to meet the opportunity where I am, and just also not being scared. That's another thing I have anxiety about. Like I am such a introvert, and people do not believe that, but I really am. Like I think I would say I'm an extroverted introvert. Like if this is 0 to 10, I'm still an introvert on the 10, so I can borderline do extrovert, because, you know, you kind of have to do that, put on a brave face. I mean, if you're a photographer for a wedding, you're around 300 people, and you're the only one standing up, walking down the aisle, like taking pictures like that. Now that I think about it, it gives me anxiety thinking about it again. But what I'm it's just like how Beyonce like channels Sasha Fierce when she performs, and then she like separates it. That's what it is. And I remember every wedding that I've shot, every everything I shot, like I always bring someone along to be like my grounding thing. And my friend Jamal, who you met at Brittany and Emmanuel's wedding, he's the videographer that I use. He has been that, for me, for my gigs. I was just at an engagement shoot with him on Tuesday. And I can just like look at him. He can be like, well, have you tried this? And like, he just motivates me that way. So like trying to find someone that to help you stay grounded and to like talk you out of your mindset. Cause you can like, that wedding was in Charlotte when I first met you. Like that whole 2 hours, I was on the phone for a little bit, but I drove in complete silence. Like because like in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And like, I'm confident in the work that I do, but I guess it's just like kind of channeling my inner self and like trying to get in the zone. But there definitely used to be a piece of me, a part of me that would completely disable me from going, and I would just stay and just pay you money back. Like,
so I'm laughing. I'm sorry. Just for our audience to know, right? I'm laughing because, the first time I ever met Jeffrey and we did the wedding in Charlotte, North Carolina, I could not have ever imagined that he was an introvert by far, not even like a
girl.
He was very lively. He was very personable, and he was very tasteful and graceful in his commenting, right? And so even when he had a question or he realized that maybe something was out of place or, something of that sort, it was super helpful for me. And maybe other planners don't necessarily always like this, but I thoroughly enjoyed it because, I look at it like we're all a team that day.
Absolutely.
I email out, the itinerary to everyone and what time we should arrive. I say, hey, wedding team, we're all, although we all have different businesses and different brands, we're all a team that day, and we're here
with the same purpose
to make the wedding look great. And so,
absolutely,
and to run smoothly. And I feel like you stood up and showed that. And the second thing that I wanted to pull out that you said also is that typically you have someone that grounds you, like Jamal. Jamal is amazing as well. And I'll share his information in the comments below too. So, what I will say is that I love seeing that it could be two Black men together and there's no competition. There is you all are working together and trying to help each other out. And it's not like, oh, I've been doing it for this amount of years. It's just great to hear and to see that it's a thing and it's going on, and that's how you run and operate business in all aspects. And it wasn't just something that I seen. So
absolutely, thank you. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. Just just having someone that you can, we're both in this creative field. And then like I feel like all three of us definitely worked well together. Like
we did.
Like it was, when I tell you that was one of the most seamless weddings that I've ever done. And to this point on, like I've even put a clause in my contract that if you don't have a professional coordinator day of or wedding planner, I won't be able to work with, because no shade or anything, I don't want to work with any more aunties that may have like did like a couple of cookouts or family reunions 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't want to do it because I need an itinerary, and some people don't even know how to do Excel sheets. So
and I don't want a handwritten itinerary. I want
either
thought through. Where are we going? Who's going where? What?
Or I need to be time. Yes.
All of those things are super important. Someone told me the other day and was like, why is your itinerary 4 pages? And I'm like, we're there from 6 a.m. until midnight.
Exactly. Like people got to get
pages do you expect for it to be?
Whew, I'm telling you. I guess they just want a paragraph like, this is when it starts. Around this time, they need to be cocktail hour.
You can
I need to know everything. Exactly. I need to know everything from when the cake is going to be cut, when the bouquet is going to be thrown. Like I need everything, because especially if I'm a one-person team, usually I have a second shooter if they, the clients pay for that. But when I'm shooting an all-day event by myself, there are multiple places that I have to be. So an itinerary lets me know that I have 5 minutes to get here, and don't let it be like a place where a wedding is at a church and then the reception is 20 minutes away and I have an hour for a cocktail hour shot to do the couple plus family members and the wedding party. Do they all have cars? Do they know, are they not inebriated, so I can figure out how to get people there? So like, speaking
of your new added clause, right? This is one of the questions that, since the Planners Corner is mostly made up of event planners, as a professional photographer and someone who's done a ton of events, kind of diverse events, not just weddings, what would you say your top 3 expectations are for event planners or coordinators? Like, what is something like, hey, I really need this and I need you all to come prepared doing this?
Sure thing. You saying to other event planning professionals, right?
Yes.
Okay. Definitely conversation ahead of the event. So, and that's one thing that I realized. I mean, I've done without previously, but I realized how much easier and much simple it is when you have some kind of communication with the wedding planner or event professional, at least a week and a half. I mean, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months ahead of that time, because you know who they are. You can, stalk their social media. Is this the type of work that they do? Or, and then it makes it a little bit more easier because once you develop that relationship with those event professionals, whether it's the DJ or the cake baker or the florist or the event coordinator, that makes it so much easier to work with on the day of, because I not only am I capturing photos for the bride and the groom or the brides or the grooms, I'm also capturing, the work of the florist, because who's going to take their photos? I'm capturing photos of the DJ who may be like swag surfing with the bride and groom. Like I'm capturing photos of the cake decorator and the bakery who are like setting up the tiers of the cake for them to use for their social media. So I love being able to, fully coalesce the day and provide, whatever assistance that I can to everyone who's trying to fulfill the purpose of that day for the couple. That would be the first thing. I know it was kind of long-winded. The second thing is definitely not having an itinerary, as we discussed before. That's so helpful for me, because sometimes weddings are a different place from receptions, and cocktail hours are different. So definitely having an itinerary. And I think the third thing, as far as on these long days of like 8, 9, 10 hours that I'm working, be prepared. And I put this in my contracts as well. Like, we have to eat at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on. Like, I think one thing about me is that, like, and I definitely thank you for the compliment that you gave me about not appearing to be like introverted. I think is when I get to a place, I just turn myself on, so I may not appear like that, but I have no issue getting in line behind someone's grandmother and getting some potatoes. See,
that's my introvert qualities.
I know I have, because you got to get it where you get, because like otherwise it's gonna be 7 p.m. and all you had was a slice of bread and cheese, and I'm lactose intolerant, so that was good.
I actually started putting in the itinerary when vendors would eat. And I didn't always do that. Like last year, I didn't do that. But I put it in there so that the bride and other people knew, like, hey, this is also an important time span as well. Like, this is an important time that they get to eat. And now we're trying to move it towards where, the vendors are eating at the same time that the guests are eating, so that when we're all done eating, we can get back to normal program.
Yes,
but we don't have time to eat while you cutting your cake, and we don't want to eat at 12 midnight when the food
or the food, when we make a plate and the food is cold. Like, we don't have time for that. Like, and I love that you're putting that, because of course I'll put that in my contracts too, like provide a meal for the photographer. I think I have, if it's over 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes I have various packages where I'll just shoot the wedding, and then bridal portraits, and I have some that I don't do the reception and some that I do reception. So I have a variety of different things, but having that would be amazing, because a lot of people don't want to get photographed while they're eating anyway. Like, I did have a mistake of like doing that, like my second wedding. And I think I got a photo of a woman who was eating like chicken, and she was like literally mid-bite. Like, I was like, I would hate to show this, but I was like,
no one wants to see that.
Yeah, no one wants to see it at all. So I think that is I'm glad that you put that in there, because I'm definitely requesting all other event professionals that I work with to do that too. So yeah, those are my top 3.
Absolutely. Okay. So my next question for you would be, if there was one thing that you could change about our industry, because we talked about the 3 things that as a professional photographer you must have leading up to the event from us. If there was one thing that you would maybe change about our event industry as a whole, not just for event planners, not just for photographers, but literally the entire event industry and how it operates, what would that thing be?
I have 2 answers to that question.
Okay.
For the event industry in general, I think diversifying, what's what I'm looking for? Just being able to have like a diverse way of articulating things. So like within the event industry, I'm thinking about, of course, I'm taking color out of it. So just as, just as a wedding planner, not a Black wedding planner or a Black photographer, just in general, just be aware of the people that you're working with. Culturally, things could be completely different. So if you are, a Caucasian event planner, like learning the purpose behind, like, why do African American couples usually jump the broom, like stuff like that, being aware of your setting and the cultural differences, being able to put in that research time. If a couple finds you and they're explaining this is what they want to do or how they want to do it, and that's very important. Now, if I add the race card into it, I would say, and this is, I don't definitely want to preface this like this is not a assumption or bias towards my own people. But when I was first starting off, and even a little bit today, like so many African American professionals, whether photographers, event planners, florists, they have this crab in a bucket mentality that I loathe. Like I hate it. And it was so hard for me to meet other photographers in this area who thought that I wanted to compete with them, and that wasn't the case. Like when I wanted to learn how to use my off-camera flash, trying to find a photographer, because up until that point I had just been doing natural light, very bright and airy shots, which I still love, but just trying to find photographers that would take me under their wing, like as far as mentorship. Like I reached out to at least 17 photographers, only heard back from 1, 2 max. And I think what had happened was, at that point in time, I had still, shot weddings. I had still been in the business for a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years, and I had already had my LLC. So when I reached out to a lot of these photographers and they saw that I was incorporated and I'm paying taxes just like everybody else, they saw that as competition. Like, why do you want to be under like my tutelage? Like you have your own LLC. Like you may try to get in and like take my clientele. I was like, believe me. I probably don't have to try hard to take your clientele. Let's be completely honest, because, and a lot of these are like older Black men that are like, photographers that don't want to like lend that helping hand. And I'm very careful. Like people that reach out to me that want assistance, I definitely, talk to them, like try to point them into the right direction. And I was like, if I wanted to steer your clients, believe me, I don't have to give my card to anybody. Like you don't even use hashtags or Instagram. So they find me that way. So it's just, I think one thing that I've been able to contribute to the event professional industry in my area is I've learned the basics of photography as far as composition and how to photograph things that, a lot of my mentors, like a lot of the older photographers are already doing. But what I'm bringing different is I'm a millennial. So like I was born with the social media aspect and learning how to use that and learning what hashtags are and using Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that's like pretty much embedded in my DNA. So I've been able to not only take what the old heads are doing, but also, incorporate that and mesh it together. And then I add my own style, with my artistic choices and, being a graphic designer by trade and just incorporating all of that. That's what I believe that sets me apart. So I would definitely say getting rid of that crabs in the bucket mentality, because no one wants your clientele. There's enough work out here for all of us. People get married every day, every weekend. If you're not a great fit for someone, it's not your fault. Like, so that's what I would say.
You know what? It's so crazy. And honestly, your story is very similar to mine. I won't share mine because my audience knows it like a million times over. But what I will say is that, I find it so important for people like us to constantly share that story so that we are like changing the narrative of how this industry moves. There was a podcast that I did recently. It's called Greater Works. And on that podcast, I didn't even realize I said it until I listened back to the podcast, but I realized that you can break a generational curse and it not be in your family. You can break a generational curse and it just be attached to a profession or a career or an industry, right? And so I think that sharing the story that you just shared is a way of breaking that curse or that notion of, oh no, I can't help you or I can't lift you up as my fellow Black person or a fellow industry person in general, even if we took race away. And what frustrates me, and people are probably gonna think I'm wrong for this, but hey, it is what it is. You cannot be 109 years old still doing photography and events.
Absolutely not. No.
You should retire. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
By the time you
when
get
you
that age,
retire,
everything has changed. Like cameras will probably be embedded in your sunglasses by then. So
when you retire, who is going to take that place if you're constantly telling people you can't help them?
right.
When it's your time to go, God forbid anytime soon for everybody that may be listening, but
Right.
when it is your time to go and when you are retired and moved on and you're reaping royalties and benefits from all your photos that you took from well before,
Right.
who have you raised up to continue on this legacy?
Legacy, absolutely.
If you want, you're deading your industry by saying,
absolutely,
I don't want to help you.
That's the truth.
It's so frustrating for me, and I wanted to highlight that you actually shared that story, or that you said that in another way of saying it, essentially. So thank you for that.
No problem. And I feel like, and I know a lot of, other professionals, because I'm going to share this on my socials and everything, are going to watch it. And that's completely fine with me, because the photographers that I am forever indebted to, the one that said, okay, yes, they know who they are. And I'm pretty sure the ones watching this that did not extend like the help that I reached out to and didn't respond to the emails, they know who they are too, and they're watching this. So, and that's one testament. Like, I may not be following them anymore, but I'm still on their timelines.
Yeah, for sure. And you're still liking my pictures. All of the people that I tried to intern with when I first moved to Atlanta, Georgia, are like following me now and trying to connect. And I'm just in my head.
Telling you. I was like, maybe in 2021 I'm booked right now. Exactly. Absolutely. No shade, but shade.
Yeah, shade for sure. I want to make it clear. But anyway, so brings me to my last question. What are you currently doing right now that you feel like can be of benefit to event planners or event designers in our industry, or just event professionals? Is there something that you want to highlight that maybe your pictures have done something impactful? What would be those things?
So this has been a challenge for me, but I am, rising to the occasion. So even though I am an event professional and, I do photography, I am embracing that fact that I am what I am. So I'm trying to set myself aside as an industry leader and an industry professional, because at first it was just like, okay, I'm taking pictures, I'll post them on Instagram, brides, grooms may or may not find me. But now, working in this industry for almost 10 years now, like there's a ton of things that I've learned to do and to not do anymore. So what my goal is for the remainder of 2020 and going into 2021 is, of course, continue shooting events. Well, when events come back to normal, is to continue doing that. But I've been able to take this quarantine time to just go back over the previous years and learn where I made mistakes at, or where I could improve, reaching back out to previous clients and brides that I've had, and asking for reviews that I'll post on my social media to not only, share to potential clients, this is what I can do, or this is how this person like enjoyed working with me. But also I'm going to set up maybe 4 or 5 different social media posts that are going to be like a carousel, which are going to give like tips and tricks that I've learned over the last few years working in the industry, such as the simple things we talked about, like providing a meal for the photographer, or the couple meeting up with the photographer before the actual wedding date, or why I feel that it's important to use the same photographer for your engagement photos with your wedding. Because I personally enjoy that, because during the engagement session, that's when I can see the couple like relax and letting loose. Like the bride, or she may have gotten her hair done, her face is beat. The groom is like, trying to be all GQ and suave and stuff, got the loafers on, the fresh cut. So that's how I can get to know them outside of their wedding and see their personalities and how they complement each other, and then carry that initial meeting and creating a great body of work for them and setting the tone for what their wedding is going to be. And when we get to the wedding, we've already worked together before. I've seen every photo shoot that I do, most of the time, 90% of the time, I bring my Bluetooth speaker and I just play music and let them vibe out. And I can hear what they listen to. Also, I work with, like I said, my friend Jamal from Good People Visuals. Sometimes like I'll play music and they'll hear it, and that may be inspiration for the soundtrack for the video for the engagement shoot or the wedding. So just being cognizant and being very observant is what I've had to do over the last couple of years. So I'm going to have some things coming out. So definitely check out my social media. You'll see a lot of that coming soon.
Okay, so tell me, well, I already know, but tell them where they can find you, your social media, as well as your website.
Sure. So on Facebook, on Pinterest, and on Instagram, my name is at Jeffrey Lynn Media. And that is JEFFREYLYNN Media. That's just that. And then my website is www.jeffreylynnmediaphotography.com. So you can find me on all those socials. I'm pretty active on social media. I'm actually very active on social media. Like, if I probably shouldn't be on it. But a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, Jeffrey's always on Facebook. He's always on Instagram. I'm not. I have a planning software. I have the 4 weeks planned out.
Right, exactly. I planned
so I'm
really
ago. I know like, oh, you didn't respond to me, but I saw that you were on Instagram posting. I was just like, that
wasn't me. That was
exactly. It is me. Like, I planned that 4 Sundays ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So exactly. So yeah, feel free to reach out. I would love to work with any and everyone who is interested in working with me. I'm accepting of all cultures, all genders, all nationalities, all sexualities. Like, I love people. And I guess that's probably why it's hard for you to like hear me say that I'm an introvert, because I do love people. That is weird. Yeah. I do love people and connecting with them in that type of way. I just think that when it's after the events are over, that's when I have to be like, oh my God, what did I just do today?
Right.
And like, and you know, and recharge myself. So, but yeah, I would love to work with any and everyone. So please hit me up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. It was such a pleasure, per usual. We'll have to get together to figure out a webinar that we can do for our industry as well.
Absolutely. I would love that.
And so I'll reach out about that. Please. In the meantime, I'm going to flip it over to Q&A. We do have a person here in that's on the live. Her name is Bee.Rahnee Washington. And so if Bee.Rahnee
I know Bee.Rahnee.
If she has any questions that she wants to ask, then this would be the time to do so. We'll give her a couple minutes to do so. And then if not, we will go ahead and log off.
Okay, perfect. I think this is the same Bee.Rahnee.
Probably.
But I think I know three of them, but like I think this is the Bee.Rahnee that because we went through the same graduate program 2 separate years. But yeah, she's great too, by the way.
Awesome. Does she do photography as well?
I'm not sure photography. I think she is just within design. It is her. I knew her, Elon yeah, Bee.Rahnee and I like go way back to like freshman year in college. Like I'm a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. She's one of our sweethearts as well. So we go back all the time. I hope your baby is doing well.
Thank you so much, Bee.Rahnee, for joining us on the live conversation. For those of you that did not get to join us on the live conversation, this will be posted on YouTube, and his contact information as well as the people that he mentioned, i.e. Good People Visuals, will be in the comments below or in the caption below. So we look forward to you all watching it. Jeffrey, thank you so much. I love you. Kiss you.
Love you too.
And we'll chat later. You all have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.